This is your daily reminder. God has not run out of mercy, not for you, not today. Welcome to the New Mercies Podcast. Welcome. Today is Monday, July the 27th, and we are jumping right in today, the book of Hosea. We are going to be looking through the entire book of Hosea over the next couple of weeks at New Providence. I'll be preaching, we're starting a new series this coming Sunday where I am preaching Hosea chapter 1, 2, and 3 all this coming Sunday. So this week we're going to read in our journals Hosea 1, 2, and 3. They're separated apart just a little bit by a few days. But then we're going to look after that. The next week we're going to look all the way through this book. It is a beautiful study to jump into. Now, just a couple of warnings today. This one is rated PG-13. If you read this one, maybe read it with your kids or help them understand some things if your kids are reading it together. I'm not going to read any specific verses on the podcast today because it is PG-13 and we know we have some little ears listening. So the Bible's, it's intense, guys. It is intense. If you are watching on YouTube, I do apologize today because I did not realize I wore a black shirt into the studio and there's a black background, so I may look a little bit like a floating head today, but maybe that's just for extra effects. Now, Hosea. Let's talk a little bit about Hosea before we jump into chapter 1 and talk about some of the verses. I want us to understand a little bit more about the history. So Hosea, in your Bible, it's one of the minor prophets, probably not one you're just picking up and reading. You've got Hosea that comes after the book of Daniel. If you look through the book of Hosea, right after Hosea, there is a prophet named Joel, and then after Joel is a guy named Amos. Okay, so, but I want to help you understand something about the Bible. Those are not laid out in chronological order. Okay, Hosea prophesied right after Amos. Now, there's Joel in between them, but I want us to kind of look at Amos and Hosea today side by side, because they help us to understand what's happening. Hosea is the last prophet to prophesy before the fall of the northern kingdom. Here's a little history lesson for you. So Israel, under the King David and Solomon, right after Solomon, the nation of Israel split into two different nations, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom is made up of 10 of the tribes. The southern kingdom is made up of 2 tribes. And the southern kingdom is named Judah. The northern kingdom is named Israel. Now, there are some problems. The northern kingdom didn't have a godly king step into it. The southern kingdom did have a few godly kings. We find the timeline in verse 1 of chapter 1 of Hosea as to who was in charge of Judah at the time and who's in charge of those days in the nations. And so here's what we will know. Hosea, if we're going to look at him next to Amos had just completed his ministry. Hosea comes on the scene. Amos and Hosea have a little bit different prophecy personalities, we'll say. Amos was a guy who would thunder the righteousness of God. That's who Amos was. Hosea looked at wept out the mercies of God. Okay, Amos was a guy who prophesied to heathen nations, all the nations outside, whereas Hosea focused primarily on Israel. That's where his focus was. So Amos was outside and Hosea was inside. Amos was he was a guy that was a prophet, I would say a prophet of the law. Sin breaks the law of God. That's what Amos would do. Hosea, a prophet of love. Sin breaks the heart of God, right? So not just God's law, but also God's heart. There is something beautiful in the book of Hosea. It is a beautiful story. It starts out tragic. It ends up in just a really beautiful way, the way the Lord works through this. So over the next couple of weeks, we're going to jump into Hosea. Again, I want to help us to see just a few things about this guy, Hosea. He prophesied, his prophecy, his ministry rather, lasted most believe 50 to 70 years. This guy was in the ministry for a minute. He's been in there for a while. There's a few things that are going on in the nation. I don't want to jump into too much of that right now. We'll talk about it this week as we continue going. This was before Isaiah existed. This is before Isaiah did any ministry. So this is pre-Isaiah. I know Isaiah, you're like, but Isaiah was before Hosea in the Bible. It's not chronological. It's laid out in more prophetic terms in the way that it's grouped together. But so here's what I want to jump into. This is Hosea was known as the deathbed prophet, and because he's the last one for the nation of Israel, like he's the last one that prophesied. Now he goes into verse number 2. He talks about this is like marriage and children as signs. That's what this is. he is called to go and marry Gomer. Gomer is verse number 2, a woman of a word I'm not going to say on the podcast today. So actually, I'm going to say it. She's a woman of whoredom. That's what she is. Says it multiple times in there. I said I was going to keep his PG-13. Says it multiple times in the text. And here's what that means in the biblical time. Here's what a woman of whoredom. This is what her term meant to her. I want to make sure I wrote this down because I wanted to make sure and say this the right way. Again, this is another one of those I may get canceled for today. A woman of whoredom was a woman who believed her body was her own, and every decision she made for it was to please herself. So it was to make her happy. So it was her body, and everything she chose to do with that body was on her, and no one else could help, guide, or direct. Let me tell you something. It was a false religion then. I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to let you finish the rest of that sentence. Now, so that's verse number 2. We see he's got to go find a woman that is this of this character. Now, I want to read. Now, I want to look at verses 4 and 5. It's where we begin to see the names of the kids that Gomer has, that Hosea has with Gomer and that Gomer has on her own. So the first son is named Jezreel. He says, name this child Jezreel. Jezreel, the northern kingdom would fall to Assyria, guess where? In the valley of Jezreel. So this is a sign pointing to Israel's demise. This is also, FYI, where the Battle of Armageddon will take place. This is really cool. I love how prophecy connects Old Testament, New Testament, Revelation, the way all of it connects together. Future, this is that battle of Armageddon will take place in the valley of Jezreel. That's the first child that's born. So Hosea has to go to this woman of whoredom. Now, I want to say this. He's got to marry her. There's a couple of places in the Bible. I want to talk about marriage for just a second. In the New Testament, Jesus and the bride, right? Then you've also got the harlot and the enemy, right? You've got the false bride, the one in Revelation that we see, the scarlet woman and the false church. You've got that's there in the book of Revelation, but you've also got the Jesus and his bride, right? The church is a picture of marriage. In the Old Testament, Israel was considered a bride type to God, the Father. God was married the people of Israel. He was their husband, okay, in this sense. So what we find is this is a picture of God and Israel. He says to Hosea, go and find a woman of whoredom because this is going to be a picture because Israel is spiritually committing adultery against me. We'll talk about that more in just a second of what this all means. But the first child, he says, this is, name him Jezreel because this is where the battle's going to be fought. The second child, found in verses 6 and 7, is named Lo Ruhamah. And so that word literally means no mercy. Maybe in your translation it says name this child no mercy. What that means, if you look at the original text in the Hebrew, it means unloved, or specifically, she who never knew a father's love. That's what this second child is supposed to be called because she was the daughter of some man that Gomer had gone out and committed adultery with. That's what's happened. And so this is the scary part. This is a very scary thought. God is going to withdraw the mercy to his people. That is a scary thing. Verses 8 and 9, we see Lo Ami. Lo Ami means not my people. This is the third child, the second son of Gomer. This is another one. The name means totally disown this child, totally disown. So by this point, the children of Israel were the picture of Gomer cheating on her husband. The people of Israel have cheated on their God. They have gone to other gods, false gods, and they have committed spiritual adultery. That's what's happened with this. They've committed adultery against the husband who loves them. Then I love the way this chapter wraps up is verses 10 and 11. This is absolutely beautiful. No prophet in all the Bible ever spoke of just doom. They all had some moment of mercy, some moment of grace. Right here is the moment of grace that comes up. There's always some, again, there's this picture of grace that is always there. Here we see the people one day will be forgiven, cleansed, and restored. We see that in verses 10 and 11. Because during this battle day at the Valley of Jezreel, Armageddon, that is going to take place, Christ will speak and he will win. He will speak and he will win. I was reading this today and I was looking at it and I was asking the question again, if if Hosea is married to this woman and the first son has this curse, right? Then this second son, and that first son, Jezreel, by the way, you can go back to the days of Ahab and Jezebel, and you can see where this name comes from. There's a lot of Bible textual history with that. I wish I had a lot of time to jump into that today, but I don't want us to steer too far clear of this very fact and this very thought. How in the world did Hosea stay with her? Why in the world did Hosea not just divorce her? Right? Why didn't he divorce her and get rid of her and leave her and just say, I'm done with this. This is not worth it. You've committed this adultery against me. You've gone over. You're a person in the community now. Everybody knows who you are, and you've done this to me. You've worn my name out. You have torn me apart. It's broke my heart. It's torn my name down. It's hurt my reputation. Why in the world would Hosea not divorce her? And I can't help but think, I wonder if the angels have ever thought that about the Lord. If they've ever thought, God, why in the world do you still stay with them? Why in the world do you still show them any mercy, any grace? Now, I don't think the angels are asking that question. I don't, because I think the angels see the holiness of God and they see the beauty of God and they know to never question this God. But here's what I want us to think about today. How many times have we made mistakes, committed our spiritual adultery, gone after things that were not the Lord, gone after things that would break his heart, and then he's just still there. He's still there, still loving us, still holding on to us, still will restore us and forgive us. We have a great God, a great God. As I was writing down all of my notes today, I just cannot help but think he has given us a beautiful, beautiful story. We have done things and committed spiritual adultery against him. It means we've gone after other gods. That's what that means. Just like Gomer went after other men, we have gone after other gods. We've done it. And you may say, well, I would never do that. I would never bow to an idol. And yet I can look at your calendar and I can tell you what God you're serving. I can look at your bank account and I can tell you what God you're serving. I can look at everything in your life and I can say, maybe you're serving this God or convenience or preference, whatever it is. And I'll say this, Hosea kept Gomer around because Hosea was the picture of God and Gomer was the picture of Israel, God's people. We are the picture. I want us to know, if anything else today, we are not too far for God's reach. We're just not. He's strong enough. The cross is big enough. It is forgiving enough that it can take whatever you've gone through and bring you back into a relationship with him. He's not going to divorce us because he loves us. I absolutely love the way God has laid out the book of Hosea. I hope and pray today as you read Hosea 1, you would allow it to sink into your life that this God is still not going to leave you.